Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Straight from the CPA's Mouth. I'm Nikay Fabi with the CPA Education Foundation, and I will be your host for this episode. Today, we will be discussing the value of volunteerism with two CPAs who have spent many hours giving back to their communities. To share their thoughts, joining me today, we have two very active community leaders who also happen to be members of the CPA Education Foundation Board. Dave Bodnarchuk, FCPA FCA, and Joe Gagliardi FCPA FCMA. Today we will be discussing their involvement with the CPA Education Foundation and their broader volunteer experience. Let's get to it and learn about the wonderful world of volunteerism straight from the CPA's mouth.
I heard that futurecasting is an essential tool for long-term business.
According to a recent poll, 48% of Canadians say they are $200 or less each month away from financial
It's down again. Do you think the energy sector is
of Albertans say the economy is too dependent on oil.
Canadian student leaves university with $26,000 considering cloud computing for my business?
Filter out the noise. Hear it straight from the CPA's mouth.
So COVID-19 is still our reality. However, we're excited to have Dave and Joe here with us in a physically distant studio. Hello, Dave and Joe. Could you just say a couple of words for our listeners?
Hi, I'm Dave Bodnarchuk. I'm the president and co-founder of Election Buddy, proud FCPA, FCA. And what Election Buddy is a simple to set up, high-integrity, cloud-based voting platform that allows member-based organizations to manage their elections and meetings. So I don't know if that's the right thing to say, so I'm not sure. I wasn't sure what you were looking for in that.
That pretty much sums it up.
Okay, great.
Hi, Nikay. Hi, Dave. My name is Joe Gagliardi. I'm an FCPA FCMA. I'm the managing partner of Recruitment Partners. We're a firm that specializes in professional services in Edmonton and Calgary, and I'm the vice chair of the Education Foundation.
Great. Well, welcome both of you. This is very fitting. I did my research before I came here today, and Joe, I know you've appeared on one of our podcasts before, and you did mention in the podcast episode, what are you doing to give back? So it is fitting that we're talking about volunteering today. So maybe can both of you describe your roles as board members with the CPA Education Foundation and how you initially got involved with our charitable arm?
So if you don't mind, I'll go first because Dave always talks over me. So all kidding aside. So I was part of the entities before the merger and, entertained the idea of going forward with the board, the main board, as I call it, at CPA. But then I actually met Dave at one of the events and got talking with him and got talking with Rachel, the CEO, and other people, and heard about this charity arm of CPA, and it really intrigued me because I always wanted to get involved with schooling and giving back to students and kind of helping them out. CPA really helped me find my way back when, and I felt it was incumbent for me to give back. So ever since then, CPA Education Foundation has been a big part of my volunteer life.
So my name's Dave Bodnarchuk, as mentioned, and I'm the board chair. And I initially got involved as I thought, I could help out or add some value to the board. And, so I had some chats. I'd done a bunch of work with K-12 schools and universities and, had some more chats with some of the board members. And the next thing I knew, I was a new board member. So it's been a great group, highly motivated people, and they really care about the next generation of our profession. So, it's fantastic, actually. It's been a great experience.
Wonderful. So I guess aside from the work that you've both done with the foundation, what other volunteer activities have you guys participated in over the course of your professional career?
So, the very first group that I got involved with was an association called MOUSE, the Macintosh Owners and Users Group Society of Edmonton. I've been involved with the Northern Alberta Crime Stoppers, a local hospital foundation, the Rural Alberta Development Fund, Kids Up Front, many of the CA committees, Discipline Tribunal Foundation, discipline tribunal committee, and lots of volunteer contributions for coursework, even podcasts like this. I currently sit on the A100 as well. We're trying to build the next generation of tech entrepreneurs as well, and there's been lots, and I've had pretty good experiences all the way through. I've certainly learned a ton through the experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've been involved with mainly in accounting and finance. In the prior iteration of CMA, there was the Edmonton chapter CMAs, and I acted as the chair there. So we put on speakers, had golf tournaments, stuff like that. I do a lot right now with NATE specifically. I used to chair their accounting advisory committee. I'm on their BBA degree advisory committee. I also speak at the university when they asked me in the master's program. And I actually was a board member for a publicly traded company, and technically that was volunteer work because I didn't get paid.
It counts. I find too, especially with the conversations that I've had with CPAs since I've been with the organization, it seems pretty typical that a lot of CPAs are giving back. Would you say that that's correct?
Honestly, I thought it was what everybody did. I remember when I started at my articles at KPMG, and just everybody did it. So I kind of looked around and said, well, maybe I better do it too, kind of thing. But there's a lot more. There's a lot more underlying reason that people get involved, and certainly from a professional standpoint, I think it's part of our DNA. I don't hear of CPAs that don't give back. It just seems to be very common to me.
Right, absolutely. So on that note, what motivates you guys to keep volunteering, and what skills have you been able to develop along the way?
I guess what motivates me is when I saw people volunteering and I saw what they gave me with nothing to give back as far as just my gratitude, I felt really touched and moved, and I said to myself at a very early age when I was going through school that if I was ever in a position that I could give back, whether it be of my time, my expertise, or money, whatever the case may be, that had to be incumbent, that I had to do that because, I know it sounds a little cliche and a little bit potentially even corny, but my philosophy is always leaving a situation, a board appointment, a job better than where I left it when I started. And when you have that as your kind of your guiding light, as your motivator, it's very easy to want to see how you can improve somebody else's life and give back. And when we're going through this COVID situation, there's so many people that need some extra help, and it's really incumbent upon us or those people that have the ability to give back to do that.
Mine, I really not struggled with this question because I've always just done it. And, I kind of mentioned before, but, in thinking about it, for me, it's good friends. I've made a lot of lasting relationships, learned a lot of good ideas from the people that I've been on the boards and the groups with, that, whether I use it in my business or my family life. Certainly good governance skills. Sometimes you learn from good and you learn from not so good on that basis. Leadership. There's lots of leaders that tend to get involved with these things. Very interesting people, and I use that term. There's an old saying that people have used that may you live in interesting times, and some of the boards have been very interesting, and I think that's a good place to leave it. Actually, I'll leave it there.
Okay, great. So I know you've both mentioned, leadership skills, governance, and I guess that could be potentially considered some of those like unexpected benefits of volunteering. Oftentimes, post-secondary students mention, employers will mention the importance of them wanting to hire, say, well-rounded students. So would you guys have any advice for post-secondary students who are looking to get involved, maybe organizations that might be beneficial, or just any general advice on why they should be volunteering?
I think it starts with what you use the term well-rounded, and the more boards and volunteer activities that you'll work in or be part of, you'll meet with people that are outside your own core competencies. So you'll learn, right? It's a great way to learn about things that aren't part of your job that you can use to make you a better, more well-rounded professional. Certainly things like fundraising, marketing, sales. As CPAs, we tend to focus on the numbers, but you'll learn lots of well-rounded skills so that you'll be able to relate in your organizations a lot better. And, it's very simple for me. Those that tend to volunteer tend to be pretty highly motivated. So you'll surround yourself with highly motivated people, and they're likely to be successful in their careers long term. And it seems to make a lot of sense that if you want to be successful, that you'd surround yourself with people that also want to be successful.
Absolutely.
And I'll layer on a little bit to that from the perspective of obviously coming from the recruitment side of things and interacting with clients and candidates on a daily basis. Clients are looking for that more well-rounded individual where they're not just unidirectional, even in their career or how they approach their business life. They want to see how are they interacting with other aspects of their lives and what they have to give back. It also shows a little bit of EQ, if you will, a little bit of a better understanding of how they fit into the bigger system, the ecosystem of this world, and what they can contribute. So I know that clients are very much looking for that well-roundedness, and it is it shows that this person has many facets to them and has a little bit more of a developed skill set, if you will.
Great. So you've obviously both had a lot of opportunities to give back. So is there a particular volunteer activity that has been memorable for you, and why?
So Dave and I were talking about this prior to coming in, and we said, wow, this is a little bit of a tougher one for both of us. And then I actually just kind of sat back and ran through all of the opportunities that where I've volunteered. And I'm going to go off the board on this one, Nikki, if I can. And my 24-year-old daughter is a big sister. And she actually just springs it on me and says, like, yeah, Dad, I'm going to be a big sister. And this is a picture of my kid that I'm helping out. And, she has a dad that, is taking care of her, a single dad. And I'm kind of providing that, the big sister opportunity. And I just sat back and I was just like, wow, I've obviously rubbed off on her because she would see, well, Dad, where are you going? Oh, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to go here and I'm going to go do that. And it was a very proud moment for me to see my daughter, Laura, volunteer her time with Big Sisters, and it made me very proud. And that's one of the most memorable things I have. Is not related to me, but it kind of rubbed off on one of my daughters.
Great.
Wow, that's a hard act to follow, Joe. Holy cow. Mine's a little bit simpler than that. You get involved in a lot of different things as a volunteer, and for me, it's always been about rolling up your shirt sleeves and just getting the job done. Both my wife and I, that's what we do. And so there was one volunteer group that I was part of. We were hosting a conference, and the name tags didn't come in, and I was running around all over the city chasing a UPS truck to try and find name tags so that we could get them out the door for the conference so that everybody kind of show up. With many of the volunteer activities, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that you never see. And this was certainly one of them. But I'll never forget the expression on the UPS driver's face when I screech my car in front and say, look, I need some name tags. You got to get them. I know they're on this truck. He thought I was crazy.
Joe, I know you mentioned a little bit about Big Brothers, Big Sisters. So are there any organizations that either of you know of that are kind of constantly looking for volunteers and might be a good place to start?
Pretty much nobody will turn you down. That was what I have found. But for example, like the Bissell, Goodwill, Boys and Girls Club, Yes is out there. I got a call yesterday of all things where this organization is looking for board of directors, and they asked me if I could volunteer my time, just give some expertise to help them find people. I think one of the mistakes that a lot of people make, especially younger individuals, is they want the glory of all the volunteer work of, quite frankly, sitting in this podcast and being appreciated for it. And there's a lot of heavy lifting in the beginning, especially, and maybe stuff that where you'll be asked to volunteer, which isn't very sexy or fun, but that's what they need. For example, it might be at the food bank stacking cans or whatever the case may be, and you're not the person being interviewed and getting those accolades. So you have to do it for the right reasons, and you have to also be understanding that, why exactly you're doing it, and is it for the glory, but more so for the to give back and to feel good about yourself when you kind of lay your head down on the pillow that night.
Yeah, I'll build on that advice. I mean, certainly as a finance or accounting professional, you'll have other skills, and people kid me for knowing a little bit about IT. So that combination's kind of an interesting one. I've never had to seek out opportunities. They've always, people have just asked. So if you check with your network, folks at, whether you're in public practice, whether you're at in industry, there's lots of places, and just ask your network, ask your supervisors, ask your coworkers. You'll find places and you'll see interesting ideas and interesting opportunities for sure.
Great, absolutely. And I think, Joe, you did really make a good point that a lot of people often might necessarily just want the title of volunteering, something that they can put on their resume. And I know you briefly mentioned it, but I guess how important do you both believe it is to find, an organization that really aligns with your values?
Very important, obviously, because then you'll be motivated. And I think, and you should try a lot of different things. And sometimes, I think Dave mentioned it, like just, they'll seek you out. But if you just go knocking on doors and saying, hey, how can I help? How can I contribute? This is the time. This is the money. This is the expertise I can offer. Organizations are really looking for that. One of the things I always do is look at their website, look at what their values, their mission is. How does it align? Does it interest me? How can I give value? For example, me with schooling and post-secondary institutions, students want to know, what are hiring managers looking for? So I have that inherent knowledge in the back of my brain that I don't think is a big deal, but to them it's new and exciting. So you always have to look at it from their perspective, and what expertise can you afford them or give them that they're going to feel, wow, what a value that you've added. But obviously being aligned, and once you're aligned that way, you're obviously going to have a little bit more patience and more willingness to stack the cans, for lack of a better term, as I mentioned prior, and do that other stuff, because then when you're again, that becomes just intrinsically rewarding within your head.
I would agree with some of that. Certainly you'll give more if you're aligned, like in the long term. And the majority of the volunteer activities that you will do, the more alignment you have, the more you'll tuck in and lean into that post or position. But if that's all you do, you'll never get outside your core competencies, your comfort zones. And some of the most interesting experiences that I've had are short-term assistance or short-term help, where you go out, you do something that you'd never done before. You're not sure why you're doing it. And then you kind of find something that you didn't even know that you liked. So you can alternate that. If all you do is stuff that you're comfortable with or completely meets what you're looking for, you won't grow. And I think growing is a part of volunteerism, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I mean, I didn't necessarily think about that at first, but true, you might be able to develop some new skills if you kind of work maybe outside of an area that you're comfortable in. So I would agree with that, absolutely. So since both of you are on the CPA Education Foundation board, why do you think the CPA Education Foundation has been so successful?
I'll use an acronym, the 3 Ps. I think it's a combination of people, partnership, and passion. Certainly the people that are on the board and that we work with as partners, whether it's the post-secondary institutions, whether it's the K-12 organizations that we've met with, whether it's other stakeholders, whether it's our members that give so much in terms of dollars, time, feedback. It's a really highly motivated and caring group. There's lots of people that actually give a a poop, for lack of a better term. That's the colloquial term that I'll use. They really care, and it makes it easy. You know, I'm sitting here in this podcast being a bit of a talking head, and it's just because we've got a great group. We really do.
And from my perspective, Nikkei, I think CPAs in general, why one of the reasons we're so successful is CPAs in general want to give back. They feel an urge, a need to kind of make inroads into with financial literacy, for example, with Dave mentioned with the post-secondaries. We have members that understand that I'm on the Education Foundation board and say, well, how do I get involved and how do I get on the board? And it's people want to give back. What we are doing here is we're setting up today's people to be leaders tomorrow. And it's really important for a lot of people that, again, and it's the reason why we're sitting in the studio today is they feel like a sense of how do they give back, where they feel so fortunate, especially because the accounting designation has opened some doors for them. So the Education Foundation, through Brian Heshey, who made a substantial donation, he could have given his money to a lot of different organizations out there that had a need, and one of the main reasons he gave it to the Education Foundation is he saw the need and the good that the Education Foundation would do to help upcoming leaders.
I'd be remiss without mentioning our staff as well. You know, folks like Rachel and Gordon and yourself. Certainly, we get lots and lots of support, right? And that's really important. You got to have success. You need support. You need people. You need passion partnerships. I know the S doesn't work with the acronym, but we'll try it anyway.
So that's kind of all of our formal questions that I had. So Dave and Joe, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your thoughts on why we should all be volunteering our time in our communities. But before we do wrap up, I did have one final and, of course, very important question for you, which of course, might seem a little bit ambitious considering our current times, but if you could live anywhere in the world for a year, where would you choose and why?
That's a good question. I've traveled to Europe and all that kind of good stuff, and quite frankly, I don't like when I don't know how to speak the language. So I've always wanted to travel to New Zealand. I think our Canadian dollar is favorable there. There's the accountant in me coming out. And I think they're a very progressive country. They're not too big. I think it's a safe country, and especially in light of what's going on in today's world. So that's something, beautiful weather, obviously, and, mountains and all that kind of stuff. And it's not overcrowded. So that's where I'd spend a year, is New Zealand.
Great. Absolutely.
I read a recent book about one of the co-founders of Microsoft. His name's Paul Allen. And so mine's a little bit different. It's not a place. I just live in a yacht for a year because then I could go anywhere in the world. I'd have my own private helipad, lots of technology around. My wife would have lots of sun on the deck, so she'd be happy. We could go nice places in the winter and more interesting places in the summer. So, I think that would be a lot of fun.
That's a great loophole to that question. I like it.
For the record, that his yacht, I think, is about $350 million, Dave. So good job. Yeah,
it's not small. And the funny part about that book is he goes into a side story about, I'm living on my yacht. And the thing that was very interesting about it was just a matter of fact, and it wouldn't be very matter of fact for me. But yeah, it's almost like you guys can understand how it would be. I'm living on my yacht, and it's just a different world. But it'd be a lot of fun.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. This episode of Straight from the CPA's Mouth featured the CPA Education Foundation's Chair, Dave Bodnarchuk, FCPA, FCA, and Vice Chair, Joe Gagliardi, FCPA, FCMA. Don't forget to subscribe to the Straight from the CPA's Mouth mailing list for exclusive content. Also, if you have any ideas for future episodes or have any feedback you'd like to share, email us at knowledgecenter@cpaalberta.ca or leave us a message on social media.
Straight from the CPA's Mouth is brought to you by the CPA Education Foundation. The CPA Education Foundation is the charitable arm of the Alberta CPA profession, providing up to $1.2 million each year in support of business and accounting education in the province. This podcast is just one of many resource materials available through the Heshey CPA Knowledge Center. This virtual hub features Alberta CPAs sharing their unique perspective and vast expertise on topics and issues such as leadership, finance, entrepreneurship, and more. Visit cpaalberta.ca/foundation for more information on the Heshi CPA Knowledge Center and to learn how Alberta CPAs inspire success.